welcome again to Freedom Sunday. We like to say and celebrate recovery, freedom from hurts, habits, and hang-ups. So I'd like to thank the praise team again. Fiesta does a great job. How about that? So celebrate recovery. We meet on Tuesday nights, like Aaron said. One blessing we have, the praise team comes out on Tuesday night and practices from 5:30 to 7, right on. And they run through their set for us from 7 to 7:30. So at the beginning of our program is praise, just like we get Sunday morning. So it's a great way to start Celebrate Recovery. And then 7:30 to 8, Matt's going to give a testimony this morning. We either have a testimony or a lesson. So the Celebrate Recovery program has 25 lessons, so we have 25 testimonies. So it's about a 50-week program. And then at 8 o'clock, we break off into small group. We eat a lot of cookies and coffee between that, but leave room for that. I always make sure the lessons are done early or group is delayed, one of the two. Yeah. So that's pretty much, so 7 to 7:30 is praise, 7:30 to 8, lesson or testimony, 8 o'clock, small group. And so it's kind of a 7 to 9 o'clock. So I'd like to thank everyone that is a part and comes out on Tuesday night, but there's just way too many people to thank. I can't do that, but I'm really grateful for everyone. But what I do want to say is, Celebrate Recovery, they try this. We had other churches come out here and try it at churches. It just, like Aaron said, we've been doing this for 20 years. And I think we do that because our senior pastor makes it clear. Being in recovery, being here at Celebrate Recovery is welcomed and accepted at Eagleville Bible Church, right? And I think of my brothers, from CR sitting down here in the front row. He encourages that. It reinforces that no matter who walks through that door, you're a valued member of our family here at Eagleville, right? I always think nobody's better than, nobody's less than. And Bill just does a great job of that. Him and Jerry come out on Tuesday nights. The only different, Celebrate Recovery the first Tuesday of the month, so this coming Tuesday, the church, you guys buy hamburgers and hot dogs, and we have them on the grill. We have dinner from 6 to 7. And Bill and Jerry will always come out and sit with the guys from these recovery, from dark places, right? And they don't know he's a pastor. They're sharing, he just sits right down with us. So I appreciate that because it just reinforces that they are valued members. And I just thank Bill a lot. So Matt, come on. Matt's going to share his testimony this morning. So before we do that, I love, Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9 through 10, and we use a lot of Bible verses at Celebrate Recovery every week. But Paul said, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, and insults, and hardships, and persecutions and difficulty. For when I'm weak, then I'm strong. And I love that. It's such a foundational passage for me with recovery. It completely changes how we think about weakness, right? Addiction often tells us to be strong enough to handle it yourself. I think of my parents' generation. They weren't sharing with nobody. Recovery begins when we accept, when we admit our struggles. And I can't do it on my own. And we get beaten down. And Matt's going to share that. But I think I boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so Christ's power may rest on me. So I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to give the mic to Matt. Dear God, just thank you for this morning, and thank you for the church and Celebrate Recovery, and just the whole church supports Celebrate Recovery, Lord, just on and on. I think I can't even name, Lord. There's all the support. We thank you for that. We thank you for the recovery here, Lord. Just be with Matt as he shares. We just ask that Christ's power rest on him and comfort him, and let his words be your words, Lord. And we just thank you in all things. In your name, amen.
I know that guy. Yeah, I mean, Keith and I, go way back. You're here how long soon? But he's been my sponsor, mentor, accountability buddy, and all through all sorts of trials. But yeah, and I do appreciate a place that is so comforting, even when you are broken and hurt. There's no better place than here, and it's so well accepted. And even recently and throughout the years, I've come in them doors, and I think I don't need to go. I'm going through something. I'm having a tough time. This is exactly where Jesus wants us to be. With other people in this place, thinking about Him, talking about Him, and the strength that He can provide. With that, I'll start from the beginning. My name's Matt McCormack. Been coming to the church for a while, since 2016. But going way back, my dad was an alcoholic, and he used methamphetamines for like 20 years. It was over a couple decades. So, with that drug, your lifestyle and daily habits are not very good. They're weird. So my childhood was pretty difficult. I lived in other places. I was constantly moving. We were kind of running from him. He was just kind of isolating. There wasn't a whole lot of food. He worked out of our garage, and my mom didn't work. So it was kind of come and go. Yeah, I think of the craziness that, secondhand addiction brings. When I was like 14, my brother was 12. He pointed a shotgun at us, was looking for my mom. But, I mean, as you heard from Jimmy last year, oh, there he is. As you heard from Jimmy last year, and you'll hear throughout the rest of my story, that I'm not unique. I'm not alone. And that's one of the greatest things that Celebrate Recovery taught me was, this is just another day in the life of an alcoholic addict, someone outside of understanding who God is in Jesus Christ. But because my dad lived a chaotic life and I had secondhand sort of consequences from that, I didn't drink. I wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't even know what it smelled like. That's as much as like I wanted to stay away from it. But in high school, I mean, I don't like being up here talking. But in high school, I probably would have ate this up. They voted me to speak at my graduation. I was kind of like the typical overachiever star. I was MVP in soccer and tennis my senior year. I was president of the band, National Honor Society, student council. But I did that because it was something I could control. Because I knew my home life was out of my control. At school, it was kind of all up to me. I could exercise and work as hard as I could to, carve my own path. So that's what I did. I wanted to do what my dad, he used to say it. He goes, well, I showed you what not to do. He wasn't wrong. Turns out that's not a great parenting tactic. I'm a parent, so I can say that now. So I, with all that, I got into Ohio State, and I had about 70% paid for. So I took out a couple loans, and I thought this just reinforced the fact that I thought I could do life my own, which is not a good way to do life, turns out. But so I didn't need the money. I could do it on my own. At a year and a half after I started college, I remember my best friend who lived behind me, like growing up. So he handed me a beer, and he goes, hey, you're 21, it's legal now. You waited this long. And I just remember time froze, and I was like, this is not a good idea. And, but in that quiet moment, I thought, I'm a smart guy, which is also not a good way to think your way through life, that you're so smart you could just, lick it. So I had that beer, big mistake. It's manageable for a time, but over about a year, I was on to other things, smoking and liquor and all sorts of other stuff. After 2 years of drinking, I was already way far gone. But it turned out I graduated college with honors and research distinction in chemistry. But it was by that time it was just the alcohol and the substances getting me by at that point. And my dad, who I reconnected with in college, because we had some things in common. I remember he came in after I graduated college, and he was just sad. You know, it's one thing as sort of an ex-alcoholic addict, you can spot him from a mile away. So my dad, like, there's no hiding from him. He walked in the door and he said, he was sad. He was generally sad. He said, "Son, you've gotten to the point to where you need it." And he knew it. And it was true. So my MO at that point was I would just abuse substances and alcohol until I would just not be able to function. So I would typically go, it was easier to go to the mental home, the rehab facilities and things like that. I would just stay up days on end partying to the point to where I couldn't tie my shoes. I ended up going a couple more times throughout my drinking and using career. And that put me on a whole slew of prescribed psych meds, which, you know, they themselves become addicting and confuse things, and all while never really getting honest with any doctor ever until that point, including that time. But interesting story. It just shows how, like, I was still trying to figure things out on my own, and fortunately for me, God showed me that that's not a good way to live. But I remember a year after I graduated college, I was in my drunken stupor, and I'm like, I'm gonna go back to school because I'm good at school. You know, nailed that. I'm gonna go get my PhD. So, you know, one night, feeling I had the motivation, I got online. I'm like, hey, apply for your PhD. And I did. And they reached back out to me. My old professor reached back out for me. He goes, yeah, I'll take you back. He goes, you're in. And I got in. And I was like, that's crazy, what happened last night. And so I moved back to Columbus, back to Ohio State, and I was sitting in front of my professor. I'm like, this can't be real. I can't be able to actually do this because, one, I can't hold down a job. I can't show up at any point on a regular basis because of the things I was doing and decisions I was making, things I was putting in my body. How am I going to afford to actually have a place and go and do this PhD? And I remember sitting in front of my professor, and he goes, no, Matt, this is for a full ride, and then we're going to pay you to teach. You don't need to find a job. And I was just like, what? And, what I've found in my life is that one of the worst things that can happen to a person is to get what they wish, their deepest desire, at the wrong time. And you can already tell where that story's going. I partied so hard I didn't even get to start school. So that's where my my PhD program went. But I came home. I was absolutely defeated. But what I did was I just went darker into that hole that I was already in. I started living with my dad. We did drugs together. But God, in a very humble place that I was in, I started working at Home Depot pushing carts around town here in Ashtabula. And that's where I met my wife. Funny story. I was the cart boy, and she was a cashier. And she was talking to, like, the head cashier, which was, like, her supervisor, which has nothing to do with the cart boys. And I remember part of the cart boy job was you had to go out and you had to shovel the sidewalks and you had to salt them in the wintertime. And I came outside from shoveling and stuff, and I saw this cute girl, and I was like, I told her supervisor, I was like, hey, I shoveled the sidewalks. And she just looked at me and she was like, okay. And I just walked away, and burst out of that. And, Ashley was like, hee hee hee. I tell her that she was an exception because she took the bait, but there was no bait. But we'd started dating, and we lived together early on. But what I've learned from Celebrate Recovery is it says in there so many times that over any given amount of time, it gets worse and never better. You can have this period of momentary, good decision making, and then if you go back, it's worse. It's worse when you return than when you left. It always works like that. So unfortunately, my dad was one of those sad cases. He's what the Alcoholics Anonymous and Celebrate Recovery call constitutionally incapable of being honest with himself. And my brother and I, we used and abused with my dad, and we were sitting around his dinner table, partying, and he just looked at us, and it wasn't a moment of clarity, but it was a moment of quiet. And he said, "It's too late for me, but it's not for you." And I don't even remember what was said after that. I don't think we left right away, but that's all I remember. And I went home. I went to Ashley's apartment, and I remember just crying. And that was the moment of clarity where I was like, I knew what this was going to cost. I knew it was going to cost me everything. And I was 27 at the time. And I knew I started thinking of all those, I was playing that tape forward for the first time in a long time, that I wasn't going to get married to the person I was with. I wasn't going to own a home, get a real job. I wasn't going to have children. I mean, it was my third grade dream, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to be a good dad because I felt like I didn't have one. Something simple, but I really wanted to be a father. I'm pretty good at math. So I started triangulating. I'm like, okay, I'm 27. Do I think, as hard as I'm going now, am I going to make it to 30? I'm like, no way. Like, the end is coming. I'm like, okay, well, how long? And then I'm like, well, how long I got? How long do I think I have? I'm like, it's June. Do I think I can make it to the new year? And I'm like, maybe. But that's as sad as it got. I mean, I was convinced, and I know it. So, losing my place here. So 3 months later, after that, my dad went to the ER. He wanted to go get some meds to, be able to go home and get what he needed to take a nap. When you're on those types of drugs, it's hard to sleep after a while. And he'd done that before, but the emergency doctor said, "Hey, you have ulcers that are about to rupture. We need to life flight you to Cleveland." And my dad is as hard-headed as me. He said, "No, give me what I need to go home and take a nap." So he came home, and I met him when he got home, and I saw him. I said, "Hey, how you feeling?" He was on the couch, and he looked up at me. He said, "Like crap." And I said, "Hey, you got some money. Do you want to go party?" And I remember he just looked at me with this sad face. And he just said, "No, man." And he rolled over on the couch. And I left. Well, my dad had a brain aneurysm and died that night. Those are the last words to my dad is, "Hey, you got some money. You want to go party?" So for me, life outside of Jesus is so selfish. It's so backward from what it was intended when he made me, and I know that. My dad used to, because he was a part of the program. Like I said, constitutionally incapable of being honest with himself. He just couldn't put the action behind the good things that he knew and thought. But that's where this program comes into play. Is these, God is the solution. These steps are the program of action. We need like one step in front of the other. They always say it's 1 through 12 for a reason, and don't skip any numbers. Just do them in order. He used to say, "You know what your problem is, son?" And that's the pot calling the kettle black. He said, "You know what your problem is? Me, I, more." And then when he was really mad, he'd say, "No." But when I think of that, I think of Ephesians 4:18. It says, "They are darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to the hardening of their hearts." If I had a heart, it was really hard, for sure. "Having lost all sensitivity," guilty, "they had given themselves over to the sensuality to indulge themselves in every kind of impurity, and they're full of greed." I needed to get what I wanted, and I was going to get it one way or another. I mean, that's how just against God I was. as a lot of others in this program, and you heard from Jimmy last year, I've had lots of bottoms. Use your imagination. Heroin, crack, methamphetamines. I say these things. I want to just speak in generalities. You can, like I said, you can use and use your imagination. But I want to show you where God has put me, from the darkest hole you could ever imagine to something just only God could do. But I finally got to the place where I wanted to get sober, and it wasn't because I wanted; it was because I had to. You run at some point. You run out of roads. You run out of options. You painted yourself in a corner, and then you look up and you throw up the white flag when you're like, hey, you up there, buddy? You know what I mean? When he needs to be our first option, but fortunately for me, God did not ignore my cry for help. So, I talk about this, and all this crazy nonsense is I'm not unique. But fortunately for me, when I did raise up that simple but heartfelt prayer of please help me, that's where God does his best work. I just didn't know at this bottom there was a cliff, and inside the cliff was a cave, and in the cave was a hole. But my good friend Steve Arslick, pastor here for Celebrate Recovery for a long time, when I came, he would say, the pain to change has to be less than the pain to stay the same. And if I was going to live another day, I couldn't stay the same anymore. So my last drink or drug was this past June. It was 11 years, June 15th, 2015. In the program it says honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness will bring about change in your life. And it did for me. I started going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings like 5-6 times a week. One of Ashley's friends begged us to come to Eagleville, begged us. Against our will, I remember telling Ashley at the time, I said, Sundays are for sleeping, not waking up early. And she's like, we just need to go so she'll stop asking. I was like, fine. So that was in 2016, September of 2016. But it was funny, we had come 3 times, and I got to tell a story because I'm in church. But we met Steve and Aaron. Steve was officiating a wedding that it was one of Ashley's friends. We knew no one else outside of the people that were actually being married. Seems like Steve and Aaron, she just told me after, she's like, we didn't know anyone else either. So I'm like, let's find a nice table in the corner, get some nice food, and then not talk to anybody. And Steve, there's no one else around. He locked eyes with us. He goes, I recognize you from church. I'm like, how in the world? I've been there 3 times, and I definitely know I didn't talk to anyone, including the pastor. But he did. So, funny story, even funnier story. He sits down with my now wife. We weren't married then. He goes, he could say the darndest things if you knew him. The first thing he said was, "Are you married?" So I said no, and then he said, like, quick shot from the hip. He said, "Why not?" And he had this smile that you knew I'm like, oh man, it wasn't totally awkward, but I'm like, dang, now I'm gonna have to address that one. And I was a year and a half sober at that time, so I had come to terms to the fact that I was stupid and not good at making good decisions. So I said, well, it turns out I was a closet junkie. She didn't know. I caught charges, and now I'm sober. He's like, wow. It turns out I run Celebrate Recovery at that church. It's every Tuesday. I'm like, huh. I'm thinking in my head, I've only been there 3 times. I wouldn't even know what the church does. This is cool. But yeah, fast forward a little bit. Steve and we started Celebrate Recovery. Steve said, hey, you'll like it. I did. I liked it. I've never left. So it's 2026, and I'm still going almost every Tuesday. I would say every Tuesday, but there are always exceptions once in a while. But he baptized Ashley and I. It was in 2017. He married us in 2017. this church has changed the trajectory of our lives. And, when I see people come in to celebrate recovery, whether they know this place does meet on Sunday morning, I'm like, please come in. You will be so welcomed, because this is what the church is for. Jesus said it's like a hospital. But I love that about this place. If I were asked what Miracle Life would be, if I could dream one up when I was first getting sober, I couldn't dream of the life I actually live today. I think about all those things I was thinking about when I was on death row, like in that bed, knowing I wasn't going to make it to 30. 28 was not likely either at that time. A wife. I've been given a wife, a good one, a daughter, a home. I'm a chemist again. I'm a scientist again. Only God could do stuff like that. But my greatest treasure is to know that God is real. He loves me. He forgives me. And his constant presence now, it gives me the strength to do anything. So I remember when Bill and Steve baptized us, they give you the mic. Do you want to say something? Well, I had one loaded up. I had been reading at that point. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to get dunked, and I'll be honest, I didn't know if that was going to be like a thing. Like, hey, I was telling my father-in-law last night, I was like, I thought baptism was like, hey, you believe, you read the Bible now, your life has changed. Now you just got to seal the deal. It changed my life. When I went in that water and came out, it absolutely changed me. But what I said was Luke 18:27. What is impossible in man is possible to God. Matthew 19:26 says the same thing. With man, this is impossible. With God, all things are possible. Ephesians 3:20. Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine, according to his power that has worked within us. But it's like that. It's that gift. We have to take it. We have to accept it to get the power. I love Psalm 116, and I get to do lessons and talk at Celebrate Recovery on Tuesday nights and lead small groups. I'm not going to say against my will, but it's not my favorite thing to do. But it is in essence of keeping the gift. I have to give it away. So, but I love Psalm 116, 3-9, because it really describes, just sums it all up. The cords of death entangled me. The anguish of the grave came over me. I was overcome by distress and sorrow. Then I called on the name of the Lord. Lord, save me. The Lord is gracious and righteous. Our God is full of compassion. The Lord protects the unweary. When I was brought low, he saved me. Return to your rest, my soul, for the Lord has been good to you. For you, Lord, have delivered me from death, my eyes from tears, my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before the Lord in the land of the living. Yeah. But what I love about that verse is it tells you when. It's the land of the living. That's today. This isn't some fictitious afterlife, which we get, which is also awesome, but it's now. We get the power now. But what I love, and I've learned through Bible reading over these 11 years or so, is the gift of God is the only gift on earth that lasts for eternity. But it's the only gift that cannot be taken from me. I think of a crazy scenario. One of the guys I used to do meetings with in online during COVID, but he was an old timer. I've been sober 50 years. I'm like, that's insane. I'm not even 50 yet. But he would say, if complete insanity were to ensue, I was taken captive, wound up naked or homeless, the gift of God can never be taken from me. The same can't be said of anything else. So I think about one of the greatest blessings that I get in this recovery program is my wife. We're in it together, and God is really at the center of our lives. And I think about speaking to my daughter about God. I love reading the Bible and getting into this recovery thing. Everyone's got their ministry. It turns out I've got the credentials to do that ministry. I qualified. But I can tell her all the ways that Jesus, saved me and what he's done for me. It's personal and it's practical. But what I love is she doesn't have to move around. She doesn't have to go hungry. She doesn't have to get the same just absolute torment that comes from secondhand addiction. And I mean, there's enough of it going around to realize that it's awful. It's awful. I'm really blessed to work with other people as a sponsor, and that's been super important for me. I have a sponsor, Keith. He's been my sponsor for 10 years. And I remember it was kind of like asking someone out on a date. Ash was like, just do it. He would be good for you. I'm like, I don't know, man. Ash was like, he seems like a nice guy. Serious. And I asked him, he's like, yes. I mean, within like 45 seconds, this guy had a plan. He goes, we got a Bible study at my house on Tuesday, which Steve did. And instantly I'm like, okay, I'm reading the Bible. This is going to be cool. I'm going to be okay. This is going to be fun. But it's been a wild ride, and it's been amazing. And just to see how important mentorship is to this program. We're not meant to do life alone. And I think I need that sort of counsel. Without my dad being around, it is super important that I surround myself with godly people. Turns out this church got a few. And but what Keith showed me, and what I want to show other people, is that there is a solution to the sickness. Whatever your sickness, God is real, that he loves you. He wants a relationship with you. He has the power to redeem and restore everything that we've ever done wrong. And I know this because that's what he did for me. I think I joke, but Tom Allen and I talk about this one all the time. It's Luke 7:41-43. It says, 2 people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of both. Now, which of them will love him more? Jesus is asking Peter this. He said, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt. And Jesus says, you've judged correctly. My debt was huge. And I'm so fortunate today. It gives me just this overwhelming ability to be humble. Now I'm a guy, so I get spurts where that leaves, and then I got to remind myself. But I've been forgiven of so much, and it's super obvious how that was so. It's said in the program that we do on Tuesdays. It's suggested to do the steps in the same way it's suggested to pull the ripcord on a parachute when jumping out of a plane. You got options, but one's not very good. But this is it says in the program, it says it's a daily reprieve contingent upon my spiritual conditions. Yesterday's victories don't guarantee today's successes. And I like this quote from author Henry Ward Beecher. He says, God asks no man whether he will accept life. That is not the choice. He must take it. The choice is how. I think of every day I need to continue to remind myself to do all these tough words. They're verbs, but they're internal ones. I think of relinquish control, submit, surrender, practice acceptance, be humble. Every day I need to continue to ask myself to do these things. And the program is great. They got meetings all the time, every day. Turns out my short-term memory is little to none. So I need reminded all the time. But if I do this every day, I know God will forge me in the fire. Using my mistakes, consequences, and experiences to strengthen my faith on him. He's far more interested in character development rather than comfort. I know this now. But I think of my past. I think of the things I can go through in life, because on this side of sobriety, we're still human. We still experience things secondhand. We're still affected. We still make mistakes. I still have consequences. I try to say sorry fast because I make mistakes a lot. But I try to get quick with that. But what's a more powerful demonstration of God's strength and power is to give me comfort, lavish me with things, or let me go through trials to develop my character and reliance upon him. And I know, unfortunately, God is more likely to make me fireproof than to remove the flames. And I think about the cost of sobriety for me. You know, my brother and I, we used to use together with my father, and we were in this vicious generational cycle, this bondage of, I won't even go back to my dad's dad and, you know, what he experienced and things like that in different times and generations. But someone asked me when I was like 3 years sober, and someone asked me, or I said to someone, I said, hey, I really wish my dad could have met my daughter, because my dad was a funny guy. I get a little bit of that from him. But I'm like, he would have loved her, because my daughter's a goof. She's 6 years old. Never seen me use or drink or anything like that. So I'm really, that generational bondage, I've done everything with the power of Christ to prevent that. But he said, I said, I really wish he could have met her. And that someone said, do you think he would even be sober if he was still alive? And it like, whew, that was a cut. I didn't know. And but that's what this program is about, is taking those deep-seated trauma, resentment, the mistakes we made, the things we've experienced that cut us to the core, and work them through. And I didn't know if I would have came to Christ had that not happened. You know, God uses what the enemy meant for evil, he will use for good. But my brother, it was really obvious in my brother. My brother got sober 10 days after my dad died in 2014. And someone asked him, he put it simply, he said, what did it take for you to get sober? And my brother said, a life. And I agree. It was the same for me. So God can use our darkest path as our greatest asset if we let him. You know, there's an option. Every bad or painful situation I've encountered in my life has one choice. It's one choice with two options. I can harbor resentment and let it make me bitter, or I can give it to God and he can use it to make me better. So like I said before, God is the solution. The steps that you read are the program of action that we try and get people when they come in the door. I mean, Keith is a fiend. He's like, if he sees something, someone he hasn't recognized, he's on it. I'm like, well, I'll talk to him later, I guess, because he's already there. But that's what we want to do. We want to welcome these people in. We want to show them that this is how you get on a path to follow God, who Jesus is, what he wants you to do in your life, you know, and getting a sponsor. I'll give you one more Bible verse. 2 Corinthians 5:17, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old is gone, and the new is here. Thanks.